Good morning. We gather today to remember and honor our family members, survivors, first responders, law enforcement, local federal agency heads, and friends of those who were killed, those who survived, and those who were changed forever on April 19th, 1995. We thank all of you for joining today in person and on television and online. We thank you for joining us to help tell the story through your service and commitment to peace and dedication to the Oklahoma City National Memorial Museum. For on this sacred ground, we seek to find common ground. There are some not here today. We remember so many storytellers who are no longer with us. This memorial is better because of their work and their passion. This past year, we lost more than a dozen immediate family members or survivors who were key to the building of this memorial and museum and a key part of this story. We will continue helping others through the memorialization process. People from around the world continue to come and learn from us and allow us to share what we have learned. Together, we must all teach about contemporary memory and ensuring our missions are forever a part of what we do, all while educating about the senselessness of violence. There is a line in the mission statement that reminds us to use this place to teach the brutality of the attack and the tenderness of the response. None of us could have predicted what happened 27 years ago. However, many agencies prepared for various crises, and that willingness to prepare for the unexpected led to a unified response to a chaotic situation. We are honored to have a number of first responders who join us today. We thank the Oklahoma Fire Pipes and Drums for leading today's procession. And if you would, please hold your applause for these other special guests with us today. The French ambassador to the United States, Philippe Etienne, Madame Patricia Etienne, Valérie Berabin, the Consul General of France, Grant Moak, the Honorary Consul, U.S. Senator James Lankford, U.S. Representative Stephanie Bice, U.S. Representative Frank Lucas, Governor Kevin Stitt, Attorney General John O'Connor, State Superintendent of Schools Joy Hoffmeister, and Mayor David Holt, Councilwoman Jo Beth Hammond, Councilwoman Nikki Nice, Councilman Bradley Carter, Councilman James Cooper, District 1 Commissioner Carrie Bloomert, Alice Greenwald, President and CEO of the National September 11th Memorial and Museum, and 9-time Grammy Award nominated artist Natalie Grant, members of our state House and Senate, and members of the Oklahoma City Council and City Manager Craig Freeman, former Governor Frank Keating and First Lady Kathy Keating, Dr. Susan Chambers, the Vice Chair of the Oklahoma City National Memorial, and our Board of Trustees. Thank you for coming this morning. It means so much to so many that you take time to remember. Thank you. Thank you to First Church for so beautifully accommodating us today. They have been a wonderful partner for the past 27 years. Thank you. The Conscience Committee, composed of family members, survivors, and first responders, serves to ensure that the memorial mission is always clearly executed through our policies, programs, and events. We thank the Conscience Committee for their service. The memorial mission statement was the cornerstone document in shaping the meaning and guiding the design and development of this memorial. It represents a remarkable community consensus document which evolved under the most difficult circumstances. I was honored to have been part of the mission statement committee 26 years ago. It shaped me, and I am forever grateful for the time I served with many who are here today. It remains our cornerstone in shaping the important work that continues today. Sharing our mission statement is survivor and former chair of the Oklahoma City National Memorial Foundation, Polly Nichols, who also lost her cousin in the Murrah building bombing.
We come here to remember those who were killed, those who survived, and those changed forever. May all who leave here know the impact of violence. May this memorial offer comfort, strength, peace, hope, and serenity. Please join me in 168 seconds of silence.
Let us pray. Father, we love you and we thank you for allowing us to come into your presence for a time such as this. We thank you for loving us, and we know that you're sovereignly working everything for our good and for your glory. We've gathered here today in honor of those 168 sacred lives lost, including the 19 children whose lives were taken at such a young age. We celebrate each one of their lives today, and also the enduring spirit of the survivors. the families and friends of the victims, and all of who were impacted on that day, this hour, 27 years ago. We ask, Father, that you continue to strengthen and comfort each of us, that you continue to inspire us to love one another and to always strive to live in peace. Bless those who are here today and the families they represent. We also pray your blessings and safety upon all the 2022 Memorial Remembrance activities and events, to include the marathon participants and volunteers. Father, yesterday we remember, today we remember, 902 forever we will remember. This we pray in your majestic name, amen.
Our clergy played a vital role in the days following the bombing and will forever be a part of our story. Pastor Tony, thank you for providing our invocation, and thank you for helping families in your own church who suffered loss on April 19th. We also appreciate your church family's contributions as a water stop along the race route this weekend for the Memorial Marathon Run to Remember. In March of 2020, literally days before the shutdown of the pandemic, the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Oklahoma City National Memorial Museum joined the New York Knicks and the 9/11 Memorial and Museum in paying tribute to police, fire, and rescue workers from Oklahoma City and New York who responded to the 1995 bombing, and many who rushed into the World Trade Towers and died as a result. We are honored to have Alice Greenwald, President and CEO of the National September 11th Memorial Museum, with us today. We asked her to come as she prepares to retire, so we may thank her for many years of partnership. We have learned from one another in our shared experience. We stand united that our memorials must be places where our sacred ground, we work to find common ground. Alice, thank you for the important work you do and for our friendship. We are grateful for the efforts of our first responders, and we are honored that they are part of the ceremony today. Please stand for the presentation of colors by the combined honor guard from the Oklahoma City Police and Fire Departments and IMSA for the singing of our national anthem by 9-time Grammy nominee and 5-time GMA Dove Awards Female Vocalist of the Year, Natalie Grant.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glared, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Natalie, that was beautiful. Thank you. Some may remember that 27 years ago today, artists were arriving in Oklahoma City to set up their booths while members of the Arts Council and Festival of the Arts staff were putting the finishing touches on one of the most highly anticipated events downtown, one of the largest outdoor arts festivals in the country. Just blocks away from that festival, the bomb went off and changed all of us forever. That festival never happened, but the artists in town were dispatched to hospitals, the convention center, and other places to create art that would try to bring some small amount of comfort to those working through the horror. Today, as we look back and think forward, artists are here, the sun is starting to shine, and in just a few hours, the festival is opening on this very important date in our city's history. They do so with a great deal of respect, honoring the journey our city and its people have traveled. We thank so many arts councils around the country that helped Oklahoma City in our darkest hour, and today we celebrate so much healing that has happened through the arts, through the years. We are honored that Peter DeLisi is with us today. He was the assistant director then, and now today is his last year as director. We thank you, Peter, all your staff, and the artists who continue to come to Oklahoma City to make this such a special festival. Our mayor joins us on this journey, both in his support of the memorial and museum and as a member of the Board of Trustees, as well as a participant with his children in our Run to Remember. Representing the city of Oklahoma City, please welcome David Holt.
I do feel it's always important to clarify I run in the kids' marathon, just so. For many, this is a day when memories flood back, when pain can feel as fresh as it did on April 19th, 1995. On behalf of the people of Oklahoma City, I extend condolences, love, and support to the families of those who lost loved ones on April 19th, those who survived, and those who were changed forever. And once again, I extend our gratitude to those who came to our aid after the bombing, arriving from around the country and indeed the world. Thank you. Each year on this day, we are reminded of the relentless passage of time. 27 years. To give that some perspective, 27 years before the bombing was 1968, the year of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. 27 years before that was the attack on Pearl Harbor. 27 years before that was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, a catalyst for World War I. My recitation of these historic events illustrates the significance of 27 years, but it is also a sad reminder of the recurring human capacity to respond to disagreement with violence. 27 years or 270 years, we humans will always need reminders of the pain that violence brings. As the bombing continues its long transition from personal experience to historic event, the memorial across the street will continue to serve more purposes than one. On days like today, it is still a very personal place. It is a hug, a chair, a moment of connection to someone we lost or someone we haven't seen since last year's ceremony. But for most other visitors, on most other days, it is a symbol. It is a scar that reminds us of the horrors of dehumanization. What happens when we think of our fellow human beings as mere representations of some political disagreement? When you see your fellow human beings as Republicans or Democrats, not as fathers and mothers, sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, then you have begun the process of dehumanization. You are paving the path to horror. That memorial is a symbol of that path's inevitable conclusion. As the decades pass, That memorial also serves as a symbol of our nation's democratic ideals, a reminder that they were not thwarted on April 19th, 1995. Violence did not beget more violence. We mourned, we came together to build a memorial, and the remarkable American experiment continued. Not divided, but united, we come here still to this place. People of every race and religion, Democrats and Republicans, to remember. The very act of sitting in this sanctuary together today is a rejection of the division hoped for by the perpetrators of this bombing. And returning here each year is a continued act of love that stands athwart dehumanization. The founders of this country gave us remarkable mechanisms to democratically solve our disagreements without violence, and that experiment was attacked on April 19th. But in the bombing's wake, we have sustained our faith in democracy. It is vital that we continue to do so. A young man named Alexis de Tocqueville came to the United States from France in 1831 and ended up writing one of the seminal works on American democracy. He observed how much of our success as a nascent republic resulted from our customs and our norms as much as our laws, our political culture. Perhaps our founding document set the stage, but it was our people and their daily behaviors who carried this experiment forward. And indeed, if American democracy and freedom is to survive another 2 centuries, it will be because of the example we are setting even now, even in this moment. We in this room are Tocqueville's latest example. In the face of violence and dehumanization, we in Oklahoma City did not abandon democracy, pluralism, unity, or our common humanity. We doubled down on it. And we continue to do so, even as the pressures of political extremism make every effort to pull us apart. Our political culture in this city, our commitment to democracy, is everything Tocqueville observed. And we sustained it through the bombing. As the decades pass, that memorial will continue to symbolize that as well. Ambassador, your presence here today is a reminder of our shared humanity, a connection that spans the oceans. The connection we share this morning is not a happy one, but it is part of the human experience, and recognizing it binds us together. Thank you, Ambassador, for joining us today, and may our shared pain continue to draw us closer together as human beings. And thank you all for being here today. Your commitment to this day gives honor to those we lost and to those to whom we are indebted. It is also an act of love that reestablishes our shared humanity and our commitment to this democratic ideal. The way we honor this day in Oklahoma City continues to be a positive example to the country and the world. Even as time passes, this day, this place have meaning, thanks to the people in this room. May your work continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I remember you running with your son and daughter last year, and you were the tallest person in the children's race. Over the past 22 years of the Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon, there have been only 4 times that we've come here to remember and celebrate life at the Memorial Marathon in the same 7 days. Later this week, thousands will come to Oklahoma City to run to remember, and we hope you will join us to thank the thousands who come here to help us celebrate life and run the Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon. There are also 3,000 volunteers that we greatly appreciate. Everything about this weekend is focused on those who were killed, those who survived, and those changed forever. Governor Stitt has embraced what we teach here, as well as our annual Run to Remember, by helping us create the Governor's Relay Challenge each year since his inauguration. Representing our state, please welcome Governor Kevin Stitt.
Good morning. This morning, we join here to remember the 168 lives lost 27 years ago. This day marks the anniversary of a terrible act of violence that is burned in our collective memories forever. An act of violence which altered the history of this city, this state, and our nation forever. On this solemn morning, I would like to recognize our speakers, Mayor David Holt, Congresswoman Stephanie Bice, and I'd like to extend a special welcome to this year's keynote speaker, the Ambassador of France to the United States. I want to reflect briefly on the great friendship our two nations share. In 1865, a French political thinker and historian proposed a monument to be built as a gift to the United States. This monument would be given in honor of our two countries' alliance, but also as a tribute to the preservation of democracy, freedom, and liberty. Its formal name was Liberty Enlightening the World. Over 130 years later, the Statue of Liberty stands in the New York Harbor, welcoming all to our great nation and is a global symbol of freedom and liberty. Liberty and freedom form our nation's shared foundation. And this shared foundation has also served as a target on our nation's backs. Specifically, Oklahoma and France, they both share scars left by violent terrorist attacks. Charlie Hebdo was a French satirical magazine that was well known for satirizing nearly everything, and its contents often served as a catalyst for debates. On January 7th, 2015, its offices in Paris were the target of a terrorist attack. 17 were killed. Yet that same day, even as the terrorists were at large, something amazing happened. Thousands of people took to the streets in Paris and around the world to express sympathy and solidarity using the slogan, Je suis Charlie, or I am Charlie. Oklahomans have known that same pain too well. So on behalf of our state, Mr. Ambassador, we acknowledge the lives lost in your nation to violence and terrorism. We thank you for being here today and for standing with us against violence and for freedoms. Inscribed on the wall of the memorial are these words: may all who leave here know the impact of violence. 27 years ago, within minutes, 168 lives were lost. Mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, husbands, wives, and friends. They were gone. Nearly 900 were injured. Those families have never been the same. This memorial belongs to them, to the people who suffered and died here. Friends, we stand near sacred ground. When we visit this sacred ground, we're obliged as the living to take from this place the memory of that day and the lessons that we learned. What is the impact of violence? Lives lost? A demonstration of the worst kind of evil in our world. Yes, but there's more. For Oklahoma, the impact of that violent attack was also a lesson of a community coming together. That day, we learned that we could go one of two ways. We could choose to be angry and bitter and allow hatred to rule our hearts. Or we could come together, reach out to our neighbors, and have faith in each other and in our God. At that time, the bombing and the aftermath was one of the most televised events in history. The eyes of the world were on Oklahoma, and every corner of the globe saw the choice that we made. We chose to come together, no matter our religion or our politics or where we came from. We stood together as one united front. There was no better visual than the lines of those waiting to donate blood. Oklahomans of every background, every religion, every worldview stood in the same line for the same cause, to help. So often we're so focused on our differences that we forget on the inside we're all the same. The impacts of violence do not stop with the lives lost, though that's where it begins. The impact of the violence 27 years ago in Oklahoma City was also the creation of the Oklahoma Standard. In France, the violent terrorist attacks in 2015 created that message of solidarity that was said around the world. Je suis Charlie. The impact of violence is the compassion we show one another every day despite our differences. It is the friends we have from across the world who share in our hurt. It is this memorial and this morning gathering in remembrance of a day that changed Oklahoma's history forever. The history of this memorial can never be forgotten, abused, or trivialized, nor can the lessons it teaches us. May we all remember the impacts of violence and the strength and resiliency of our great state. May God bless you, and God continue to bless the great state of Oklahoma.
Thank you so much, Governor Stitt, and thank you for your leadership for Oklahoma. We remain grateful for the leadership of our Oklahoma congressional delegation and the efforts of Congresswoman Bice that she is working towards. She brought a congresswoman from San Diego here a couple of weeks ago and led a tour for this for her associate. And it was remarkable how much she knew about this story and how committed she was to it. If we ever needed a reminder, this memorial reminds us all to continue to find common ground, even when it's not always politically popular to do so. Representing our nation, we are fortunate to have Congresswoman Stephanie Bice.
Thank you, John, Ambassador, Mr. Mayor, and Governor. Thank you for having me here to remember the tragedy that occurred on this day 27 years ago and to honor the lives of the 168 that were lost. As a fourth-generation Oklahoman, there are truly no words to fully capture the weight this anniversary brings to each and every one of us. On this day every year, I think about how we all woke up to what we imagined would be a normal morning. I was finishing up my senior year at Oklahoma State when I saw the breaking news on television that a large explosion destroyed a building in downtown Oklahoma City. My mind began racing as the man I was dating, and who would later become my now husband of 26 years, worked in one of the buildings here downtown. I was relieved to hear that he was safe, but I was heartbroken for the lives deeply impacted by this tragedy. We will never forget the moms, the dads, the sisters, brothers, sons, and daughters who never made it home that day, and their loved ones whose lives were changed forever. It takes days like this to put into perspective what truly matters in our lives. In Congress, it can be easy to get wrapped up in the commotion of partisan divides, policy disagreements, and debates on the House floor. But when it comes down to it, what matters the most is that we are all here to serve the people of this great nation. In order to achieve that, we must work together and work across the political aisle to effectively pass legislation that will benefit Americans and Oklahomans for generations. Similarly, days like this serve as a reminder that we all have more in common than it may appear, and what we can accomplish when we come together. We overcame this tragedy and emerged with unity and strength. Oklahomans stepped up and banded together in our darkest hour. We truly embodied the American spirit and what came to be known as the Oklahoma Standard by leaning on each other and rebuilding our city together to honor those and always remember those lost. This day is forever ingrained in our community. We must never forget, and we must continue to appreciate how far we have come. That is why it is incredibly important and special that we have this beautiful memorial, not only to honor the lives lost, but to ensure that our children and our grandchildren will understand the gravity of this day for generations to come. 27 years later, we continue to mourn those who perish and pray for those who have and continue to suffer from this horrific act of terror. Our community, our state, our nation will never be the same, but Oklahomans remain resilient. Thank you.
We appreciate you so much, Congresswoman. Thank you. Our keynote speaker, Philippe Etienne, is the ambassador from France to the United States. To Ambassador and Madame Etienne, bienvenue en Oklahoma. Welcome to Oklahoma. At the birth of the United States, when we were a war-torn land, when we desperately needed a friend, France became our first ally. And for that, we will always be grateful. Thank you. As Governor Stitt pointed out, about 100 years later, France generously gave us the Statue of Liberty. That historic gift was and remains the freedom, the beacon of freedom for the whole world. We can't thank you enough. Thank you. We're honored to have our ambassador here because for the past year, the memorials team has shared with France our knowledge, lessons, experience learned through our memorialization process. Carrie Watkins, our incredible CEO of the museum, and her team has been working with Henri Rousseau, one of the most distinguished French historians, and with their memorial committee, as they work on a mission and a plan for the French Museum and Memorial on Terrorism. Please welcome Ambassador Philippe Etienne.
Dear Congresswoman Stephanie Bice, dear Governor Kevin Stitt, dear Mayor David Holt, dear Chairman John Kennedy, dear survivors, family members, first responders, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to be your guest and share with you this moment of remembrance. Tragically, France and the United States have both experienced several large-scale terrorist attacks on their own soil. Paris and Oklahoma City have been hit very hard in their hearts. Facing terrorism is an extremely harsh experience for the families, in the first place, the survivors, but also for the first responders, the community, and the nation as a whole. In such circumstances, the support provided by the international community is essential. I'm referring to the material support and the anti-terrorist cooperation. I'm above all referring to the political mobilization, human solidarity between communities, expression of compassion and global resilience, which allows the affected populations to feel also accompanied by other people beyond their borders. I have come to bring this message. France is your ally in the fight against terrorism. The French people are standing next to you, shoulder to shoulder, and you are standing next to us to remember and year after year, build the resilience to face the trauma inflicted by terrorism. The French people and the people in Oklahoma City are sharing the same challenge as the need to repair the fabric of our democratic societies and the injunction to reaffirm our fundamental values have never been so strong. I have come to share with you our experience. In 2018, as France was in the process of understanding the impact of the 2015 and 2016 terrorist attacks, on Charlie Hebdo, and then at the Bataclan Concert Hall, and in cafes and restaurants in Paris, and then again in Nice, President Macron commissioned the creation of a memorial museum of societies facing terrorism. The trials of terrorists, military and police action, and preventive policies were not sufficient to face the trauma inflicted by terrorism on our country, institutions, and social fabric. The Memorial Committee emphasized the idea that the museum should not be a museum of terrorism, but rather an institution which would address the challenges posed by terrorism to our democracies, values, and institutions. As democratic societies, how do we face such a challenge without losing our ethos and principles? How do we build mechanisms of resilience which enable us to overcome the trauma? I have come to learn from your experience and knowledge. My sincere thanks go to Mrs. Carrie Watkins, the Executive Director of the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum, one of the largest national memorials in the world. Your example has provided guidance and advice to the French Commission. It is a testimony to the collective and transnational dimension of the memorializing mission to which we are committed. We are indeed in this together for the long term. I have come to express our indefectible solidarity in the fight against terrorism and for our freedom. Cooperation is crucial. As our democracies face the threats and direct attacks of violent extremism, whether from inside or outside, we all understand that the challenges posed to our democracies are of a global nature. Thus, the response of democratic societies must be a global and united one. Just as importantly, we need to give democratic legitimacy to the strategies we deploy in the fight against terrorism. Putting words on the horror of violence, measuring its impact, tracing its root causes, giving a voice to victims is not the sole preserve of our government and officials. Museum directors, educators, policymakers, scholars are legitimate stakeholders as well. This remembrance ceremony hosted today by the Oklahoma City National Memorial is a testimony to a collective project in which past, present, and future are woven into a democratic narrative to the benefit of the citizens and the nation and our international community. Thank you very much.
Is too little. They let him go. They had no sudden healing. To think that Providence would take a child from his mother while she prays is appalling. Who told us we'd be rescued? What has changed? And why should we be saved from nightmares? We're asking why this happens to us who have died to live. It's unfair, but this is what it means to be held, how it feels when the sacred is torn from your life and you survive. This is what it is to be loved and to know the promise was when everything fell, we will be held. If hope is born of our suffering, if this is only the beginning, can we not wait for 1 hour, watching for our Savior. This is what it means to be held, how it feels when the sacred is torn from your life, but you survive. This is what it is to be loved, to know the promise was when everything fell, we will be held. We will be held. This is what it means to be held. It's like the sun is shining when the rain is pouring down. It's like my soul is flying though my feet are on the ground. Take this heart of mine, there's no doubt I'm in better hands now. Yes, I am strong, all because of you. I stand in awe of every mountain that you move. Oh, I am changed. Yesterday is gone. I am safe from this moment on. Oh, and there's no fear when the night comes around, 'cause I'm in better hands now. It's like the sun is shining when the rain is pouring down. It's like my soul is flying though my feet are on the ground. So take this heart of mine, there's no doubt I'm in better hands now. It's like the sun is shining when the rain is pouring down. It's like my soul is flying, though my feet, they're on the ground. Oh, it's like the world is silent, though I know it isn't true. And it's like the breath of Jesus is right here in this room. So take this heart of mine, there's no doubt I'm in better hands. I'm in your hands now. I'm in better hands now.
We come here to remember those at the Oklahoma Water Resources Board building. Trudy Jean Rigney. Robert N. Chipman. We remember those at the Athenian building, Job Corps. Catherine Elizabeth Ridley. Anita Christine Hightower. We remember rescue worker Rebecca Needham Anderson. We remember those who were killed in the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. United States Secret Service, 9th floor. Alan G. Witcher. Kathy Lynn Seidel. Linda G. McKinney. Mickey B. Monroney. Donald Ray Leonard. Cynthia L. Brown. We remember our friends and family with the Drug Enforcement Administration, 9th floor. Kenneth Glenn McCullough. Carrie Ann Lenz and baby Michael James Lenz III. Rona Lynn Keener Chafee. Carol June Chip Fields. Shelley D. Bland. We remember those who were killed with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, 8th floor. Clarence Eugene Wilson, Sr. Francis Fran Ann Williams. Michael D. Weaver. David Jack Walker. Jules A. Valdez. Leora Lee Sells. Lanny Lee David Scroggins. Antonio Tony C. Reyes. Dr. George Michael Howard, DVM. Susan Jane Farrell.
We continue to remember those who were killed with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, 8th floor. Kimberly K. Clark. Donald Earl Burns, Sr. David Neil Burkett. Peter R. Avillanosa. Ted L. Allen. We remember our friends and family with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, 7th floor. Joanne Wittenberg. John Carl Van Ness III. John Thomas Stewart. Terry Smith Reese. Patricia Ann Nix. Betsy J. Beebe McGonnell. James A. McCarthy II. Mary Leisure Renty. Teresa Lee Taylor Lauderdale. Anne Kreinberg. Thompson Eugene Jean Hodges, Jr. J. Colleen Giles. Linda Louise Florence. Judy J. Fro Fisher. Castine Brooks Hearn Devereaux. Diana Lynn Day. Kim R. Cousins.
My aunt, Andrea Yvette Blanton. Diane E. Hollingsworth Althouse.
We continue to remember our friends and family with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, 5th floor. My father, Paul Gregory Beatty Brocksterman.
We remember our friends and family of the U.S. Marine Corps recruiting, 6th floor. My brother, Captain Randolph A. Guzman, USMC. Sergeant Benjamin Lorenzo Davis, USMC. We remember those with the U.S. Customs, 5th floor. Claude Arthur Mudiris, SSA. Paul D. Ice, Senior Special Agent. We remember our friends and family with the Department of Agriculture, 5th floor. Rita Bender Long. Carol Sue Khalil. Doris Adele Higginbottom. Richard Dick Cummins. Dr. Margaret L. Peggy Clark. James E. Bowles. Olin Burl Bloomer. We remember those with the U.S. Army Recruiting Battalion, 4th floor. Wanda Lee Watkins. Kayla Marie Titsworth. Dolores D. Stratton. Victoria Vicky L. Son. John C. Moss III. Peggy Louise Holland. Karen Gist Carr. Sergeant First Class Lola Bolden, U.S. Army. We remember our friends and family with the Department of Transportation, Federal Highway, 4th floor. John A. Youngblood. Johnny Allen Wade. Rick L. Tomlin. Michelle A. Reeder. Jerry Lee Parker. Ronata Ann Newberry Woodbridge. James K. Martin. Larry James Jones. Michael Carrillo. Mark Allen Bolte. Lucio Alleman Jr.
We remember our friends and family with the Federal Employees Credit Union, 3rd floor. Teresa Joe Mathis Wharton. Virginia M. Thompson. Victoria Jeanette Texter. Karen Howell Shepard. Sonia Lynn Sanders. Christy Rosas. Claudine Ritter. Jill Diane Randolph. Frankie Ann Merrill. Claudette Duke Meek. Kathy Cagle Linan. Valerie Jo Couch. Alvin J. Justice. Christy Yolanda Jenkins. Robin Ann Huff and baby Amber Denise Huff. Linda Colleen Housley. Sheila R. Gigger Driver and baby Gregory N. Driver II. My mother, Jamie Falkowski Ginzer. Kathy A. Finley. Kimberly Ruth Burgess. Woodrow Clifford Woody Brady. We remember our friends and family with the Defense Security Service, 3rd floor. Robert G. Westbury. Larry L. Turner. Norma Jean Johnson. Peter L. DeMaster. Harley Richard Cottingham. We remember our visitor on the 2nd floor, Scott D. Williams.
We remember our friends and family from the America's Kids Child Development Center, 2nd floor. Colton Wade Smith. Chase Dalton Smith. Dominique Rouvet Johnson London. Blake Ryan Kennedy. Wanda Lee Howell. Kevin Lee Gottschall II. Tevin DeAndre Garrett. My son, Tyler Santoy Eves. Brenda Faye Daniels. J.C. Ray Coyne. Elijah S. Coverdale, Aaron M. Coverdale, Antonio and Sarah Cooper Jr., Anthony Christopher Cooper II, Dana Leanne Cooper, Zachary Taylor Chavez, Danielle Nicole Bell, Miss Bailey Allman. We remember our friends and family from the General Services Administration, first floor: Michael L. Laudenslager, Stephen Douglas Curry.
We remember our friends and family from the Social Security Administration, first floor: Sharon Louise Wood Chestnut, W. Stephen Williams, Julie Marie Welch, Robert N. Walker, Jr., Luther H. Trainer, LaRue A. Trainer, Michael George Thompson, Charlotte Andrea Louise Thomas, Emilio Tapia, Eula Lee Mitchell, Derwin W. Miller, Courtney J. McRaven, Reverend Gilbert X. Martinez, Robert Lee Luster, Jr., Aurelia Donna Luster, Airman First Class Lakeisha Richardson Levy, Raymond Lee Johnson, Jean Nutting Horlbert, Dr. Charles E. Holbert, Thomas Lynn Hawthorne, Sr.,
We continue to remember our friends and family from the Social Security Administration, first floor: Ronald Vernan Harding, Sr., Cheryl E. Hammond, Ethel L. Griffin, Margaret Betterton Goodson, Laura Jane Garrison, Marianne Fritzler, Dawn Fritzler, Ashley Megan Eccles, Catherine Louise Cregan, Gabrielle D.L. Bruce, Peachlyn Bradley, Carol Louise Bowers, Cassandra K. Booker, Olita C. Biddy, Paola Battle, Calvin Battle, Sandra G. Sandy, my cousin Pamela Cleveland Argo, Richard A. Allen, Teresa Antoinette Alexander.
The most important part of the remembrance this morning is the reading of the names. So let's thank all the family members that led us through that this morning. Thank you. We are pleased that admission to the museum is free for everyone today as part of the Cox Community Day. The museum will be open from now until 5 p.m. tonight. Saplings of the survivor tree are available following today's ceremony in front of the museum. We really hope to see you around this weekend as thousands come to run to remember. Nothing means more to the runners than a family member, survivor, or first responder to award the runners their medals. At the conclusion of this ceremony, the Oklahoma Fire Pipes and Drums will lead a procession across the street to the field of empty chairs. We invite all family members, survivors, and first responders to a reception inside the museum following today's ceremony. Please enter through the North Street entrance on 6th Street. Thank you to everybody who participated today. Thank you for being here. Thank you to everyone here for our 27th anniversary ceremony. We're on this sacred ground. We continue to work to find common ground. Thank you.